Hello, my name is MThomas, and today I'm going to be talking about the collaborative leadership within children's ministries. This is the Performance Indicator 3.1.3 to go along with the course of administration and ministry context. And so a few topics that I'm going to discuss. First, I'm going to talk about the current approach at my current church, the pros, the cons, immediate adjustments, and the ongoing things that I will be doing. So a little background is that I have been the pastor of children's for about a month now, middle of November. The church is Garden City Church. It's in Beverly, Massachusetts. They call their children's church Kingdom Children. They have nursery, preschool, and elementary, which goes from kindergarten to 5th grade. And so I'm just coming in. So as coming in, I have been really just listening, learning, relationship building, things like that, to see what I want to keep, how I want it to grow, where I want it to grow. And so the basis of the church, there's about 120 people that are consistently coming. It is a growing church. Right before 2020, it was 20 people. And they made it through COVID, and now there's about 110, 120 consistently every Sunday. And so they had a children's pastor that left, and then the senior pastor's wife has been doing it. She stepped down, and so here I am. That's a little background of the church and where I fit in. So to go again with the current approach, within each of those 3 classrooms that I mentioned before, the nursery, the preschool, and the elementary, there are 2 workers in every classroom, and at least one of those is adults. You'd think that both people would be adults, and usually that is the case. However, we do have some teenagers that like to assist. Right now, the current rule is that no teenagers can help in the nursery, so they're allowed to help in preschool and help in the elementary. The titles of the workers are coach, which is the leader of the class. They're called the coach, and then there's a helper. And so the coach basically runs the whole classroom and prepares, gets ready. Even the nursery has an agenda. It's really intentional about what the babies are reading, so that everybody's on the same page. They also use an app called Planning Center. I am familiar with the app because my previous church used it, and so that's been a really good adjustment to stay on the same app. So through Planning Center, they assign the workers, and the schedule has been, they make them the schedule 3 months at a time, and then they give it to the workers. So right now the schedule runs out at the end of December, and the previous children's pastor, the senior pastor's wife, she has agreed to continue to be the scheduler, making the schedule for me, as I'm still unsure of everybody. And once I get my foot in the water, maybe by the next 3 months I'll be able to, but for now she has agreed to make the schedule for the following 3 months of January, February, March. And so the other piece of the current approach is that the coaches and helpers, they volunteer as needed, where needed. So there's really not a consistency. There's not this person serves once a month, twice a month. They like the nursery, so they only serve there. No, if you're a kids helper, then you kind of go wherever it's planted. Wherever they need you, that's kind of where you go. The other piece of the Kingdom Children, or KC, is that the children go to KC after worship and before the sermon. So as a traditional AG church, they have worship, play several songs at the beginning. There may be some announcements and then some more worship, and then offering, and then worship again, and then the sermon. So right after that, that last worship and right before the sermon, that's when the kids go to Kingdom Children. There is also monthly family services. They call them Family Sundays. And that is where children stay in the service with their family, and there's absolutely no Kingdom Children during that time. So there's some pros that I've noticed so far in the past month or so that I've been there, is that first and foremost, they have committed workers who have their hearts on Jesus. These workers love Jesus, they love kids, and maybe preschool isn't their favorite class, but they'll do it anyway. They just want to do whatever Jesus wants them to do and wherever their hearts are, so they just go wherever is needed. So that's wonderful. So one of the first things that I saw is the helpers that are there. It's great. It's awesome to start a new church with wonderful leaders already in the works. The other pro of Kingdom Children and the leadership is that the kids learn about Jesus in an age-appropriate environment. So they're learning, for the most part. Most Sundays are not family Sundays, so the kids are in Sunday school with other kids their own age. They get to fellowship with their peers, so it's not just a classroom setting. It is kind of a classroom setting, but it also, they play games, they have fun together, they get to talk to each other, they get to sit with each other. So they're also building those relationships and fellowshipping with peers. Another pro is that the kids get to worship together. I'm sorry, not the kids, but the kids and their parents. They worship together as a family each and every week. And that is a pro. Anytime you get to worship God with your family as one whole, that is definitely a pro. I love that they do that. It's a wonderful idea. And I think it's great. The other pro is that kids get an understanding of how worship service goes. So the worship service, because they are present in the worship service at least once a month, then they get to see how worship service goes. They know the order, they know how it works, they get to learn the tradition, and they get to see their family and parents and people that they trust and know worship Jesus and love Jesus. They also get to learn about Jesus, but they also get to see and be witness to that. The pros, like I said before, is the planning center, because I'm familiar with it. I love that they use that. It's such a great app. Volunteers are prepared. They come in prepared. They come in ready to serve the kids, and they arrive on time. They're ready to go once they arrive. And the kids all appear to enjoy KC. They are spiritually learning, they're spiritually growing. I can see that. In just even the short period of time that I've sat back and watched them, I could see that they're growing and that they love Jesus. So now the cons. From the short amount of time, I have noticed a few cons, that there's a big potential for burnout on the workers. I don't see the burnout yet, but I can see that it's definitely possible. This is because they're not all serving where the Holy Spirit leads. They're just serving where the help is needed, which I completely understand that is needed for certain things and certain times. There's definitely a time and place for that. But that is something that I want to work on. And so that if someone feels called to help with the second graders, for example, them being in the nursery week after week is definitely cause for burnout. They also may be serving more than they can handle. So because this church is a smaller church, they have one service, and that means that if the helpers don't get to be in service, they do get to listen to the sermon online if that's what they choose to do, but because there's just one service, they can only be in service at one time. And so serving even twice or 3 times a month takes them away from that. So they may get burnout really quickly from that. The other con is that even though the worshiping as a family is amazing and it's wonderful, the parents don't get that alone time with God during the family Sundays. Well, not just the family Sundays, but every single Sunday, because every Sunday is worship with your kids. And so parents, especially parents of younger kids, don't have that. And so they never get that worship alone time. Another con is that it may be hard for parents to focus on family Sundays. The once a month or twice a month times that the kids are not in Kingdom Children, then they may not be spiritually present throughout the entire sermon. Maybe their kid is 2 or 3 and they're focused on their children, and even the most well-behaved children, sometimes parents just need to make sure that they're doing okay, and they may zone out from the sermon. Some parents can do this wonderfully, but I can definitely see from what I've seen so far is that and spoken to some people, that those are really difficult weeks when their children aren't there. There is a lower attendance on that time. Some of the parents told me right away the first week. One of the parents told me that she wasn't going to come to service because she thought that Sunday was a family Sunday, but then they changed it and they said that it was going to be that it initially it was going to be a family service, and then they changed it to no, it's not. So then she did come, and because they changed it kind of last minute, then she got there late because she was prepared to stay home with her kids, because she said that her kids, she has 3 kids. 2 of them are 3 and one of them is a year, and so she just can't focus when her little 3 kids are there and her husband doesn't come to service. So it's just her and her 3 kids, and it just doesn't make sense for her to come to service, she said. So listening to her say that, and watching other people just not be able to come on those times, I definitely would put this in the cons category. There is also no Kingdom Children volunteer community. The people just come in to church and they serve. They come in with a smile on their face, ready to serve. They're wonderful. Their hearts are on Jesus. But there's no community amongst the volunteers themselves. They just kind of come and serve, because if you're serving in elementary, you may not see the person who's serving in preschool or serving in the nursery. And I definitely consider that to be a con, because it's one ministry, it's one church, but it's one ministry, and there's a missed opportunity of relationship there. So although I came into the church and I said I do not want to make any adjustments for 90 days, this is my first time being a pastor, and my ideal situation was to just come in, sit back, watch for 90 days or so, and then slowly speak up, make some adjustments. But it was pretty apparent that I needed to make some immediate adjustments, and that was okay, and I felt peace from God with that. So the first thing I did was I had a meeting with the current volunteers. That was about a week and a half ago, and that was great. A lot of them came, not all of them, but a lot of them came to that meeting. I had the meeting right before service, about a half an hour before service, so they were already coming. They just came a little bit earlier, and I got to show them my heart, who I am. They got to talk to each other. I got to show them appreciation that I'm not sure. I mean, I know that the pastor's wife, she's amazing. She's wonderful. So I'm sure she was giving appreciation. The church does appreciation once a year, appreciation dinner. And I'm sure that the pastor's wife was giving the appropriate appreciation. I just wanted to do that as well, and to show them how much they're appreciated for what they're doing. I also wanted to listen. So in that first meeting, I just listened to them and just heard what they said, wrote everything down that they said. Some things I could change, some things I couldn't. But either way, I listened to them and prayed about it, and to see what can happen. And if I can't fix that, then maybe I can come to some sort of situation that I can help on some degree. I also wanted to make adjustments to where people are serving. So if somebody feels called and feels more spiritually fulfilled when they're in the nursery, then I want to keep them in the nursery. There's no reason for them to work in the elementary if their calling is in the nursery, or if their calling is in with 3-year-olds, then I definitely don't want them changing diapers or anything like that if that's not where they're called. So I want to make sure that everybody is where God calls them. And so that was one of the things that came out of the meeting that I had, is that I asked everybody, where do you feel fulfilled? And right away, everybody said, oh, I'll serve wherever you want me to. And I think that's great to have an open heart ready for the Lord to do whatever. I just really wanted to make sure that they were in a space where they're growing and learning and growing closer to God and being spiritually fulfilled, so that there is no burnout, and so that they can also just be one with God on those days that they're serving. So that was one of the first things that I did. I also stopped Family Sundays. That was definitely, I don't want to say that there was bad things about it. I had only been to, I think, maybe one or two. But I definitely saw that there are people not coming to church on those days. So right away, I wanted to stop that. So I talked to the pastor, and he was willing to stop that right away. I was willing to wait until January, but he agreed that we could stop that immediately. So we did that. And to have the children go directly to Kingdom Children. So we actually stopped having them go to worship with their parents. And that was sort of a hard one for me, because I do love the fact that when kids worship with their family. But just on Sunday mornings, I feel that the parents should have that opportunity to be able to have some alone time with God. And sometimes at church, that's the only time that they can get that. So I really wanted to make sure that they had that opportunity, and that if a parent feels that they want their kid to worship with them, then they still can. It's definitely not you have no choice. Your kids cannot go into sanctuary. That's not it. They just have the opportunity to go into Kingdom Children as soon as they come into church. So I've been doing that for a couple weeks now, and that seems to have been going pretty well. The parents were really excited at that decision. They were really excited to drop them off to have just some time with God, just them and God. So I really liked that decision. I also developed a group chat with current Kingdom Children volunteers. Right now it just started with the elementary, but it's going to grow into having all of the leaders, not the helpers, but really the leaders, be on a group chat, so that we can talk, fellowship, be together, and also have any ideas, or if somebody calls out, or it just makes it easy for communication to be one in that communication chat. I also want to work on relationship building from me as the pastor to the volunteer, whether you are a coach or a helper. I want to just really build the relationship on every single Kingdom Children worker. Also, Kingdom Children worker to Kingdom Children worker, the volunteers to the volunteers. That relationship definitely, my aim is to strengthen that, so that it just develops into a sisterhood, a family. And so ongoing, at least quarterly, I'd like to have Kingdom Children volunteer meetings. That's sort of, again, I've only been at the church for a month, but I could see that would be a good thing to have at least quarterly meetings, even if there's really not much going on of changes. But if there are, even if it's just a short meeting to say, I appreciate you, thank you, and write a card, individual handwritten cards saying thank you to them, and writing a little note letting them know that they're appreciated, finding out how each person ticks, just really getting to know each person, which leads me to the next point of continue working on relationship building amongst leaders. That's really a big, huge deal for me. And also just having an open door for the leaders to come and talk to me at any point in time. I want to continue supporting and working on growing the ministry, whether physically emotionally, spiritually, mentally, definitely spiritually, but just really work on growing that and supporting the ministry as a whole. So, and then the last one is listening, leading, and following the Holy Spirit. Listening to the workers, listening to the parents. Just want to hear what everybody says. Just because somebody says something does not always mean that I'm going to change it. They may disagree with a decision that I've made, but I can listen to their heart and hear what where their heart is, and write that down and pay attention to what everybody has to say. I want to work on leading and leading more efficiently, and leading according to the way the Holy Spirit has taught me to lead, and that is by serving. So I know that the best way for me to lead is to serve. So I do most of the teaching. I plan on teaching at least 2 or 3 times a month, and I think that will definitely help the situation, at least immediately, until we can get more workers. And I just want to show that that I can lead by serving, and that my heart is going in the direction of the Holy Spirit. That's all I have to say. So I thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this PowerPoint.